All right, time to take a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. And Florence Philomeno joins us on the set. Hi, Flo. A big story, really. Yesterday, the government unveiling controversial labor reforms. President Emmanuel Macron trying to succeed where many have failed.
And very mixed reactions in the press today. It really depends on where papers stand on the political spectrum. Let's start all the way to the left with the communist paper L'Humanité, unsurprisingly. Very much outraged by this reform that was laid out yesterday. You can see on the front page it says that the labor code has been torn to shreds. All that's left is it's in tatters, shatters, shreds, tatters. You get the idea. Essentially, according to L'Humanité, the government has ripped up the labor code. Workers have everything to lose, while employers are the big winners.
And the left, the most condemning of these new reforms, while left-wing paper Libération agrees with the analysis. It accuses the government of playing into the hands of big business.
And that's literally what you can see on the front page of Libération. If we take a look, you can see the president there, Emmanuel Macron, shaking hands with Pierre Gattaz. We've seen a lot of him in recent days. He's the leader of France's main union of business representatives, the MEDEF, and he's seen as really representing big business. So you can see them shaking hands there. It seems like they've sealed the deal with these reforms. Merci Macron. Thank you, Macron. That's what it says quite literally, but it's actually a reference to a very popular documentary that came out last year about big business called Merci Patron. Thank you, boss. So you can see Libération saying it's thank you, boss, and thank you, Macron.
The boss of all bosses. Now, the government says it wants to free up the energy of the workforce with these reforms, but Libération, it's not buying that statement.
Libération isn't buying it at all. Like, government essentially says that these reforms are modern, they're opening the door to a new world, but if we take a look at its editorial, Libération says, no, this is not a modern step forward. This is actually a major step backwards. Real progress would have been to make the labor market more flexible, and Libération agrees that there is some work to be done to make the labor market more flexible, but that should have gone hand in hand with improving workers' protection, workers' rights, and that's something that's completely absent from these reforms, according to Libération. And Libération actually interviews a labor market specialist, her name is Emmanuelle Duquesne, who says that France is really going in a different direction and not necessarily the one that a lot of people want it to go towards. It's going towards an American-style system. Essentially, Libération says that pretty soon here in France, we'll be able to do the thing that you can see on American TV shows when someone says, you're fired for no reason.
Well, left-wing papers outrage. Any more enthusiasm from the right-wing press?
Actually, lots of enthusiasm, to say the least. Let's start with L'Opinion. It's a pro-business paper. And you can see it's definitely excited by these reforms. It talks about how it's a big bang for France. It's ambitious, it's innovative, it's a Copernican revolution, in fact, that's going to reshape France. So you can see glowing words there in L'Opinion. Le Figaro, which is the main conservative daily, is a little bit more measured, but definitely excited by the direction things are taking. You can see it says that this could be a game changer for France. And in its editorial, Le Figaro applauds Emmanuel Macron for not flinching at the last minute. But it has a word of warning for the government. It says, hold on tight. Now you actually have to see the reform all the way through.
Yeah, and that will be difficult. The government has to face a tough fight. It has several trade unions vowing to stage demonstrations against the reforms.
It's definitely far from being a popular move, and it comes also as the president is really taking a tumble in opinion polls. If we take a look at another opinion piece here in Le Figaro, it actually applauds the president for focusing on long-term efficiency rather than immediate popularity. He's keeping a campaign promise instead of going for a quick boost in the polls, and this is something that his predecessors weren't a big fan of doing.
All right, now moving on from French politics, the northern city of Lille is gearing up for a massive garage sale.
It's right. It's a tradition that's been around since the 12th century. It's called La Braderie de Lille. It's an institution that takes place every first weekend of September. People come from around the country to sell their secondhand things, and it turns Lille into the biggest flea market in Europe for this weekend. Now, it's a very popular event, but it was canceled last year because of the threat of terrorism. And this is definitely something that's on everyone's minds, especially in the wake of the attack in Barcelona. And you can see in Libération, they talk about measures that have been taken to protect the area where this major flea market is going to take place. Authorities are concerned there could be some sort of a vehicular attack that like we've seen in other cities around Europe. And so they've brought in 1,800 100 tons of concrete blocks to essentially protect the perimeter, and they've limited traffic. So those are the measures they're taking to protect the area.
Let's hope it goes off without a hitch. I know I could use a new lamp. I might go shopping. Finally, a word on football. It's official. French football star Kylian Mbappé is going to play for Paris Saint-Germain.
That's right. We heard those rumors weeks ago, and it's finally true. The news was official at 7:30 p.m. precisely. He's going to be on loan from Monaco, and he made it very clear that he wanted to play with Neymar, who recently transferred to Paris Saint-Germain. Le Parisien says that this is really the end of a spectacular transfer season, summer transfer season that ended at midnight last night. PSG managed to get some pretty impressive players, those two players right there. It means that their offense is going to be off the charts. It's been an insane summer in general, though, for football. You can read more about that in Les Echos, the business paper that takes a look at a record-breaking transfer season. In fact, the summer saw the three biggest transfers in football history. Top of the chart, of course, Neymar's 222 million transfer to Paris Saint-Germain. Les Echos wonders what in the world could be next for the football world.
I wonder if PSG will do some shopping at the Lille garage.
Maybe they'll find that lamp.
Yes, that's right. That's a roundup of the French press. Florence will be back a little bit later with a look at the international headlines. For now, stay tuned. More headlines coming up in just a moment.